Chapter 923. Sky Eagle King suspected that he was hallucinating. What did the other party say? He wanted the Black Dragon Old Ancestor to talk to him? Who was the Black Dragon Old Ancestor? He was an existence comparable to Shu King, Air Emperor, and the others. Even the Dragon King was slightly inferior to him. Although Yi Chen was a peak king, he had just matured. Whether he could escape the pursuit of a titled monarch was still an unknown. Yi Chen, don't make a mistake. The consequences of offending the red-eyed Black Dragon clan is not something a peak king like you can bear. Even if Shenhu joined in, it would still be impossible. Sky Eagle King said loudly. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Take your people and get the hell out of this island. I'll give you 3 days to retreat. After 3 days, you'll be killed without mercy." The island where the Dragon God Celestial Palace was located was extremely huge, equivalent to a small domain. It was impossible to evacuate in a few hours. Therefore, Yi Chen gave the other 3 days. Of course, if the other party dragged the time, they couldn't blame him for being merciless. With his peak king strength, he could easily slaughter the enemies on the island. Retreat. After operating the undying art, Whirlwind King, whose aura was extremely weak, coldly glanced at Yi Chen and said word by word. "Yi Chen, you're on your own." Sky Eagle King was furious, but he had no choice but to swallow his anger. He was looking forward to the Black Dragon Old Ancestor teaching Yi Chen a lesson. Even if he couldn't kill him, he would make him flee like a stray dog. As for now, it was better to retreat first. At worst, he could reoccupy this different island. In any case, with the Black Dragon Old Ancestor's strength, he could turn the sky upside down for Yi Chen. Are we really going to retreat? How can this Yi Chen have the strength of a peak king? To be able to easily defeat 4 kings, if he wasn't a peak king, what else could he be? The people of the 4 factions on the island were all dumbstruck, their expressions sluggish. Too powerful. He has just entered life and death realm, yet he is already this powerful. This is too heaven-defying. Someone couldn't help but say. Since Yi Chen did not go all out, Whirlwind King, Black King, and Water Wave King did not have to worry about their lives. Of course, their cultivation base had been reduced by a lot. If they did not have a large amount of supreme-grade spirit stones or Jinyuan crystals to recover their Jinyuan, they would not be able to return to their peak state within a few years. The retreat proceeded very quickly. On the morning of the 4th day, most of the people from the 4 great powers had already retreated. There were still some people who didn't manage to retreat in time. Yi Chen didn't make things difficult for them. In any case, it was fine as long as the elites left. These people who did odd jobs were mostly ordinary people with very low cultivation. The people of the 4 forces returned to where they had come from. On the huge island, apart from some imprisoned people of Dragon God Celestial Palace and Yi Chen, there were no outsiders. 9-9 Origin Return Formation. No wonder the 4 major forces are eyeing this island. The current Yi Chen was no longer the old Yi Chen. With a sweep of his soul power, he could clearly see all kinds of restrictions and arrays on the island. There were many restrictions and arrays on the island, but the core was an extremely rare 9-9 Origin Return Formation. 9-9 Origin Return Formation was extremely difficult to arrange. It required 81 spirit veins. The higher the quality of the spirit vein, the greater the might of the 9-9 Origin Return Formation. The lowest grade spirit vein on the island was mid-grade, with 64 of them. As for upper grade spirit veins, it reached 27. The surging Yuan Qi of spirit stones was completely locked in the formation. Then, with the formation as the center, it transmitted Yuan Qi to other arrays and restrictions, forming a strict system. The 9-9 Yuan Return Great Formation had 3 main functions. First, it could provide power for the other formations. Second, it could gather Yuan Qi and increase the density of the Yuan Qi. Training inside it, 1 day would be equivalent to 9 days. For example, if Yi Chen lost a part of his cultivation, without using extreme rank spirit stones and Jinyuan crystals, he would need 9 months to recover. However, inside the 9-9 Yuan Return Great Formation, he would only need 1 month, which would save him 8 months. As for the third function, it was defensive. 9-9 Origin Return formation could mobilize the boundless Yuan Qi of spirit stones and form a powerful Yuan Qi wall, blocking the attacks of external enemies. For a sect, this was extremely important. After all, it was hard to avoid offending a life and death king. If the latter came for revenge, without the protection of the formation, a casual move from him could cause a disastrous loss to the sect. With a few more moves, he could completely destroy a 5th-grade sect without a life and death king. Apart from this, the 81 spirit veins in itself was a huge fortune, enough to make any 5th-grade sect green with envy. It was impossible for the 4 parties to let go of this fat meat in front of their mouths. Occupying this island was naturally a must. Unfortunately, the arrival of Yi Chen made them spit out the fat meat they had swallowed. One could well imagine how painful it was. The space twisted, and a white-robed Xianhu appeared in front of Yi Chen. Senior Yang. Yi Chen looked over. If I'm not wrong, your battle strength should have reached the high stage of 4 stars, or even the peak stage. Xuanho's insight was not something that Whirlwind King and the others could compare with. Yi Chen said honestly, more or less peak stage. Before creating the second sword of vibrational sword arts, Yi Chen's battle strength was the high stage of 4 stars. Now, it would not be too much to say that it was peak stage. Of course, without verifying it, he could not be sure. Very good. After receiving Yi Chen's reply, a smile appeared on Xuanho's face. You are proficient in the space ultimacy. As long as you are not pursued by titled monarchs who are proficient in speed, there will not be more than 3 people in Elysium who are confident of killing you. However, you cannot be careless. If you can avoid offending titled monarchs, it is best not to do so. A battle between monarchs was ever-changing. No one dared to say that they would always be undefeatable, and titled monarchs were titled monarchs after all. Their attacks were extremely powerful. That is natural. Yi Chen nodded. As for the Black Dragon Patriarch, you do not need to worry. In a situation where he is not confident, he will not come looking for trouble. Back then, your senior Dragon King was weaker than him, but he did not come looking for trouble. As long as we do not take the initiative to provoke him, it will be fine. The Black Dragon Patriarch was a demon king who had lived longer than the Dragon King. In Elysium, the lifespan of humans was 1,000 years, but the lifespan of demonic beasts was more than that. This did not mean that Elysium favored demonic beasts. It was mainly because humans were born with intelligence. Some demonic beasts might not have much intelligence even after living for hundreds of years. In terms of the day they were born, many demon kings had lived for more than 1,000 years, or even 2,000 years. However, in terms of the day they gained intelligence, the life of a demonic beast would not exceed 1,000 years. As a demon king who had lived for so long, the Black Dragon Patriarch cherished his feathers very much. He would not easily cause trouble. Unless he was 90% sure of success, he would not strike. The news of Yi Chen's domineering return and defeating the 4 kings of Eastern Shallow Ocean spread like a violent storm. In a short period of time, it spread throughout the entire True Spirit continent. Then, with True Spirit continent as the center, it spread to the 4 shallow ocean regions, 4 deep ocean regions, and the other 2 continents. At this moment, as long as it was a populated place, whether it was a tea house, a restaurant, or some other lively place, everyone was talking about Yi Chen. Entering life and death realm at the age of 32, a peak king as soon as he became a king. This Yi Chen is definitely the #1 genius after Yuan Emperor. His future is boundless. Isn't that right? The Eastern Shallow Ocean's 4 kings are not ordinary kings, but high-step kings. For them to lose to a genius who has just entered life and death realm, it speaks volumes. Yi Chen is the leading figure of our True Spirit continent's young generation. Now that he is the first to enter life and death realm, Du Guju, Dantai Mingyu, and the rest must be secretly exerting their strength as well. I wonder who will be the second to enter life and death realm. Will it be Du Guju? Or will it be Dantai Mingyu? Or perhaps the veteran Luo Tianju? Difficult. Entering life and death realm is no small matter. One needs to comprehend life and death Dao. Death Dao is easy to comprehend, but life Dao is not. In a short period of time, Yi Chen's fame skyrocketed. If his identity was limited to the ranks of geniuses before, then now, he had become an influential figure in Elysium, comparable to Shu King, Xianhu, Evil King, and the rest. In the future, when talking about geniuses, Yi Chen would definitely be mentioned. It was just like before, when people talked about geniuses, they would first mention Xianhu. Peak King. He really can't be underestimated. After receiving the news, a strange light flickered in Air Emperor's eyes. In the eastern deep sea, there was a black island. At the center of the island was a majestic city. In the center of the city was a palace. Sky Eagle King pays his respects to old ancestor. The inside of the palace was vast and deep. Sky Eagle King bowed and cupped his fists. Sky Eagle King, I already know your purpose in coming here. Go back. On the black golden dragon throne, an old man with eyes like lightning spoke with an expressionless face. Sky Eagle King raised his head in astonishment. Old ancestor, what do you mean? The old man was precisely old ancestor Black Dragon. He said, don't provoke him for the time being. Let's wait and see. Old ancestor. Sky Eagle King was anxious. If old ancestor Black Dragon didn't help him, how could he take back the Dragon God Celestial Palace? Although he had already prepared for the worst, he didn't expect old ancestor Black Dragon to refuse so bluntly. Old ancestor, that Yi Chen clearly knows that our four forces are cooperating with old ancestor, yet he still dares to oppose us. He clearly doesn't put old ancestor in his eyes. If this matter were to spread, it would damage old ancestor's prestige. Impudent. The entire city fiercely shook. Black and red chi flowed out of old ancestor Black Dragon's body. A frightening pressure instantly acted on Sky Eagle King's body, causing his breathing to stagnate and his complexion to turn pale. Old ancestor, please calm down. Sky Eagle King hurriedly said. If you provoke me again, I won't be lenient. Old ancestor Black Dragon coldly snorted. Yes. Sky Eagle King's forehead was covered in sweat. Go back. Waving his hand, old ancestor Black Dragon impatiently said. Not daring to say anything, Sky Eagle King retreated out of the palace and entered the void, leaving the island. Daring to oppose me right after entering life and death realm? This debt will be settled in the future. Although old ancestor Black Dragon didn't intend to help the four forces, it didn't mean that he wasn't angry. If there was an opportunity in the future, he would find Yi Chen to settle the debt. Chapter 924. The number of people imprisoned in Dragon God Celestial Palace was numerous. After all, no matter how big the secret realm was, the number of people it could hold was limited. It could only transport the elites inside. Due to the island's size and the number of people imprisoned, Yi Chen had no choice but to release a portion of the people and have them liberate the others, allowing them to regroup in the palace plaza. A few days later, everyone was released. The people of Dragon God Celestial Palace were no strangers to Yi Chen. One was Xianhu, and the other was Yi Chen. Both of them were firm allies. Now that Dragon King's fate was unknown, Xianhu and Yi Chen were undoubtedly the palace's final reliance. It's Yi Chen. Yi Chen recovered Dragon God Celestial Palace. A Peak King. Another Peak King has appeared in the world. Palace Master's eyesight is indeed formidable. Who could have expected that Yi Chen would have the strength of a Peak King as soon as he entered life and death realm? How can you call him by his name? You should call him Dragon God Envoy or His Highness Yi Chen. Tens of thousands of Dragon God Celestial Palace's members were gathered in a plaza, discussing spiritedly. As members of Dragon God Celestial Palace, although they were usually modest on the surface, they were extremely proud in their bones. However, with Dragon King's departure, Dragon God Celestial Palace's position immediately became awkward. Without a life and death king overseeing it, Dragon God Celestial Palace would no longer be the Dragon God Celestial Palace of the past. Its grade would also drop by a grade, becoming a 6th grade overlord sect at most. This was also the main reason why many 5th grade sects were fervently nurturing their 2nd and 3rd life and death kings. In fact, Dragon God Celestial Palace used to have more than one life and death king. At their peak, they had 3. Unfortunately, apart from Dragon King, one died in a king-grade forbidden zone, and the other was killed by a star beast. Thereafter, no matter what price Dragon King and Dragon God Celestial Palace paid, they were unable to cultivate the fourth life and Death King. They could only set their sights on outsiders, and thus, Xianhu and Yi Chen came into being. The majestic Dragon God Celestial Palace had been invaded by 4 major forces. This made the members of Dragon God Celestial Palace feel extremely humiliated. In the past, as long as Dragon King was present, who would dare to provoke Dragon God Celestial Palace, let alone invade and occupy it? Therefore, when Yi Chen reclaimed Dragon God Celestial Palace, they were extremely moved and grateful. Your Highness Yi Chen, many thanks for saving Dragon God Celestial Palace. An old man of high status stepped forward and cupped his fists. Yi Chen said, as Dragon God Envoy of Dragon God Celestial Palace, reclaiming Dragon God Celestial Palace is also one of my missions. There's no need to thank me. Back when Yi Chen was still a Sea of Soul Master, he was conferred the position of Dragon God Envoy by Dragon King. Although his authority was not as great as Azure Dragon Hall leaders, his position was extremely high, second only to Goddess Xu Jing. He could be said to be Xu Jing's protector and spokesperson. Your Highness Yi Chen, is Palace Master really gone? Suddenly, another old man stood up and asked. Yi Chen pondered for a moment, then said, I'm not too clear. Perhaps Senior Dragon King has already left Elysium, perhaps. Yi Chen didn't finish his words. Entering the death road was extremely dangerous. In the records, even 4 Extreme Emperor hadn't made it out. One could well imagine how difficult it was. Of course, deep in his heart, he hoped that Senior Dragon King had heaven-defying luck and successfully left Elysium. In that case, they might meet again one day. Rumble. Just as the old man was about to continue speaking, the sky suddenly darkened. Black clouds, as if ignoring space and time, quietly gathered together. Black lightning filled the horizon, and a frightening pressure came from the depths of the void, faintly carrying a dragon roar. Dragon might. Yi Chen squinted his eyes, his expression grave. Dragon might was the will of a giant dragon. Normally, only flood dragons with dragon bloodline could emit dragon might. He remembered that when Yi Chen first came to Sky Marshal region and roamed the savage desolate ancient land, he encountered an ice flood dragon which contained a faint dragon might. Then, in the dragon ruins, he saw a genuine giant dragon skeleton, which contained an extremely powerful dragon might. It was clearly an inanimate object, but it was still difficult to approach. The dragon might before his eyes was countless times more powerful than the ice flood dragon's dragon might. It was even above the giant dragon skeleton's dragon might. After all, the giant dragon skeleton was an inanimate object, and its dragon might was less than 10%. Under this dragon might, the whole heaven and earth turned silent. The seawater gradually calmed down, and the wind stopped blowing. Under life and death realm, no one could move. Even blinking and breathing were difficult. In the whole world, only 2 people could emit such a dragon might. One was the Black Dragon Old Ancestor, and the other was the Dragon King. The Dragon King's fate was unknown, so the answer was obvious. Black Dragon Old Ancestor. Not good. Black Dragon Old Ancestor is here. Everybody screamed inwardly, their faces turning pale. Black Dragon Old Ancestor was one of the oldest titled monarchs in Elysium. Although he didn't often appear in public, there wasn't a single peak martial artist who hadn't heard of his name. Black Dragon Old Ancestor had personally come. Clearly, Yi Chen had angered him. Yi Chen, you're really daring. A loud voice could be heard, which felt like the might of the heavens. Black Dragon Old Ancestor, why don't we meet? Yi Chen's lips curled into a smile. Meet? Humph. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself and kill you. The cold voice completely ignored the distance and directly smashed down. Many thanks to Old Ancestor for not killing me. How could Yi Chen not see that Black Dragon Old Ancestor had not come to kill him? He had made such a big commotion mainly to probe and express his attitude, as well as to warn Yi Chen. Of course, if Yi Chen's strength and speed weren't worth mentioning, Black Dragon Old Ancestor probably wouldn't mind killing him to prevent future troubles. Therefore, Yi Chen didn't want to continue angering him, so he gave him a way out. You think by lowering your stance, my anger will be appeased? Roar. A resounding dragon roar resounded through the 9 heavens. In the sky filled with black clouds, an enormous black horned dragon was faintly discernible. A frightening dragon might spread out, shaking the heaven and earth within thousands of li. It seemed as if the world would shatter at any moment, falling into a doomsday world. Whoosh! A black dragon claw of the black dragon reached down. This black dragon claw was a bit too big, covering the sun and the moon, as well as any light. As a result, when the claw reached down, it gave people a feeling that the sky had collapsed. Each of those sharp nails was like a steep mountain, while the palm was like a plain. The world was turning upside down. Everything was in this claw. I can't block it. Yi Chen's expression changed. The black dragon was not the real body of Black Dragon Old Ancestor, but an illusion of him. His real body should be hiding in the void. Even so, the claw of the black horned dragon still gave Yi Chen a premonition that he couldn't block it. Flood dragons were extremely powerful, and the red-eyed black dragon was an outstanding one among the flood dragons, occupying the position of overlord. Flood dragons cultivated to the level of Monster King. Not only was their demonic power unparalleled, their physical body was also unbelievably strong. They cultivated both internal and external energy, and could be said to be invincible among their peers. They didn't need to be too profound to deal a fatal blow. Rumble. The entire island of the Dragon God Celestial Palace was shaking. The black dragon claw was as fast as lightning, grabbing a corner of the huge island. That 1,000 li perimeter corner was instantly torn off, as if an apple had been bitten off, without the slightest bit of sloppiness. The ocean surged, and tsunamis continued. The black dragon claw retracted. Space profound movement art. In the depths of the void, Black Dragon Old Ancestor's voice carried a hint of anger. Yi Chen, you better not continue to anger me. Otherwise, you'll have to bear my strongest wrath. The voice gradually faded away. Black Dragon Old Ancestor had left. I won't be seeing you off. In the sky, Yi Chen's figure appeared. The black dragon claw was too powerful. Even if Yi Chen could block it, he would definitely be in a difficult situation. Moreover, he didn't plan to fight to the death with the Black Dragon Old Ancestor, so he didn't intend to block it. Instead, he directly used his space profound movement art to dodge the attack. Of course, this was only him. If it were someone else, they wouldn't be able to dodge no matter how hard they tried. Only the space profound could ignore the limitation of distance to a certain extent. The weak are prey to the strong. Fortunately, I'm not a weakling anymore. The Black Dragon Old Ancestor left as fast as he came. This was mainly because he knew that he couldn't do anything to Yi Chen. With the space profound, although Yi Chen couldn't beat him, he could still escape safely. Instead of that, he might as well stop while he was ahead. A slight warning would suffice. If he really set his mind on killing Yi Chen, it would only make him lose face. However, Yi Chen also knew that although the Black Dragon Old Ancestor couldn't do anything to him, it didn't mean that the other titled monarchs couldn't do anything to him. Among the titled monarchs of the same level, the demonic Beast King's battle strength was always very strong. In a head-on battle, they were stronger than human titled monarchs. However, in terms of profound, they were weaker than human titled monarchs. For example, if the Black Dragon Old Ancestor was replaced by Shu King or the Air Emperor, Yi Chen might be able to escape safely, but he might also be killed by the other party. It should be known that Shu King, Air Emperor, and Xianhu all had some achievements in the space profound. They might not be weaker than Yi Chen. Without the advantage of space profound, Yi Chen could only rely on his powerful soul force. The space profound had a very high requirement on soul force. The stronger one's soul force was, the stronger the space profound of the same realm would be. As soon as the Black Dragon Old Ancestor left, the black clouds in the sky rapidly dispersed, and the intense sunlight poured down like a myriad of golden rays. The seawater and the ground were suffused with a faint golden color. Recovering from their stiff bodies, everybody looked at the corner of the island that had turned into seawater and sucked in a breath of cold air. 1,000 li of land had been erased just like that. Ordinary life and death kings would have a hard time accomplishing such a feat. Even peak kings wouldn't be able to do it so easily. Only a titled monarch could have such an inconceivable method. Yi Chen's soul power was countless times stronger than everybody else's. Through his soul perception, he could clearly see a grand claw print and 4 finger holes in the ocean. It was like an undersea demon cave, and seawater was pouring in with all its might, filling up the space. However, due to the existence of air, the seawater couldn't fill up halfway. The density of the air was astonishing, and it was contending with the seawater above. Chapter 925. So this is a titled monarch. Yi Chen's brows creased. As a veteran titled monarch, Black Dragon Old Ancestor's strength was definitely not low or mid 5-star. He was probably at the same level as Shu King and Air Emperor, high 5-star. Senior Dragon King was a bit inferior to them, so he should be mid 5-star. A titled monarch with high 5-star battle strength, even if it wasn't an all-out attack, would still be extremely frightening. After recovering the Dragon God Celestial Palace, there was still one more important matter for Yi Chen to do. And that was to find the secret realm. On this day, Yi Chen took out the golden dragon ball and poured his soul power inside. In the depths of the void, a mysterious space formed a connection with the dragon ball. This connection was extremely clear, causing the dragon ball to flicker. After giving some instructions to the person in charge of the Dragon God Celestial Palace, Yi Chen tore open the space and headed toward the mysterious space. The mysterious space was too far away, and it was not always smooth sailing in the void. There would often be space storms that would crazily attack Yi Chen. There were also some mysterious space curves that would cause Yi Chen to fly forward, but as soon as he encountered a space curve, his trajectory would immediately deviate. If not for the Golden Dragon Ball, Yi Chen would never have found the secret realm. This is a spatial tunnel. Looking at the black void ahead, Yi Chen's brows twitched. The space tunnel had the effect of ignoring the distance between two places. In fact, the transmission gate and transmission array were built according to the principles of the space tunnel. However, the transmission gate and transmission array needed to consume energy to operate. Without energy, they wouldn't be able to operate. On the other hand, the space tunnel itself contained a vast and immeasurable amount of space energy. It was impossible for the space tunnel to run out of energy. Of course, over the endless years, the space tunnel would automatically collapse due to some reason, turning into a terrifying space storm. Swish! With a flicker, Yi Chen entered the spatial tunnel. The moment he exited the spatial tunnel, Yi Chen saw a glowing dot in the distance. That dot was extremely small, but its radiance seemed to ignore the existence of space and time, emitting an everlasting radiance. The mystic realm was right before his eyes. However, Yi Chen knew that it would take a long time to get close to the secret realm. It was like the stars in the sky. Everyone could see them, but not many could reach them. Hey! Suddenly, colorful flowers fell from the sky. These flowers could be seen, but they could not be touched. They were the traces of the Tao, the manifestation of the Tao. This was the phenomenon of heavenly flowers falling from the sky. Someone has entered life and death realm. Yi Chen was no stranger to the falling heavenly flowers phenomenon. He himself had caused the falling heavenly flowers phenomenon, and it was the 7-colored heavenly flowers, not the 5-colored heavenly flowers in front of him. Heavenly Sword Continent. In a huge mountain range behind the azure cloud sword sec. I, Marquis Swordstar, have finally stepped into life and death realm, becoming an existence-like teacher. On a mountain peak as steep as a sword, Marquis Swordstar stood up. His sword chi soared into the sky, and his surroundings were covered in rubble and lava. Clearly, this was the sign of someone who had experienced a life and death calamity. In life and death secret realm, he was the existence closest to life and death realm. His accomplishments in death Tao far surpassed others. No, at that time, nobody had comprehended death Tao. Later, when Life and Death Palace opened, Dugu was the second one to comprehend death Tao. The others still hadn't comprehended it. Originally, Marquis Swordstar thought that he would be the first to enter life and death realm, but he hadn't expected that there would still be someone ahead of him. Although he didn't know who it was, Yi Chen's figure inexplicably appeared in his mind. His intuition told him that this was the first to enter life and death realm. The reason why Marquis Swordstar was able to enter life and death realms so quickly was largely due to his 7-star point kill sword art. The 5th strike of the 7-star point kill sword art was Starfall Strike, which contained intense Death Dao. While studying Starfall Strike, he was also comprehending Death Dao. As for the 6th strike of 7-star point kill sword art, it contained Life Dao. After comprehending Life Dao, Marquis Swordstar first learned Life Kill, and then finally entered Life and Death Realm, becoming a king of a generation. By relying on the 6th strike of 7-star point kill sword art, Marquis Swordstar believed that his battle strength had already reached 3 stars, equivalent to a high-step king of Elysium. Yi Chen, I'm looking forward to our battle. Marquis Swordstar had just entered life and death realm, so he didn't have the time to comprehend profounds. Once he raised his profounds to a level that would be hard to raise in a short time, he would look for an opportunity to compete with Yi Chen. Buzz. The space was torn apart, and a figure appeared on the mountain peak. Teacher. Marquis Swordstar promptly cupped his fists and bowed. Very good. My Azure Cloud Sword sect finally has a 3rd king. The newcomer's aura was sharp like a heavenly sword, and he wore scholarly robes. He was Azure Cloud Sword Emperor, who had once appeared in the deep sea. Azure Cloud Sword sect was a great sword sect of Heavenly Sword Continent. Only Snowflake Sword sect could stand shoulder to shoulder with Azure Cloud Sword sect. However, Snowflake Sword sect had 3 kings, while Azure Cloud Sword sect only had 2. In this regard, Azure Cloud Sword sect was inferior to Snowflake Sword sect. Therefore, Marquis Swordstar's breakthrough made Azure Cloud Sword Emperor extremely gratified. One more life and death king meant one more assurance in the upcoming Great War. Moreover, he was quite optimistic about Marquis Swordstar, believing that he had a great chance of becoming a titled monarch. He even had a good chance of breaking through 5 stars and reaching the highest battle strength of Elysium, 6 stars. Many thanks to teachers' guidance these years. Tian Chen will certainly cultivate diligently. One day, Azure Cloud Sword Sect will become the #1 sword sect of Elysium, the #1 sect. Marquis Swordstar's surname was Wei, and his name was Tian Chen. Azure Cloud Sword Emperor faintly nodded. It's good that you have such thoughts. However, you must not become arrogant and complacent. You also know that there is already a genius who has entered life and death realm before you. Is it Yi Chen? Marquis Swordstar asked. Indeed, his current battle prowess has reached 4 stars. According to my estimation, he has already reached mid 4-star battle prowess, or even high 4-star battle prowess. There's still a big gap between you and him. While speaking, Blue Cloud Sword Emperor sized up Marquis Swordstar, paying attention to the changes in his expression. 4-star battle strength. Marquis Swordstar's expression turned sluggish, and his fists involuntarily clenched. The difference between 4 stars and 3 stars seemed to be only 1 star, but the difference in battle prowess was like the difference between heaven and earth. It was not an exaggeration to say that in a situation where their speed was the same, a peak king with 4-star battle prowess would be able to kill a high-rank king with 3-star battle prowess effortlessly. They would be able to do so with a wave of their hand. Marquis Swordstar was confident that he could raise his battle strength to peak 3-star, or even 3-star tyrant, in a short period of time. However, it was impossible for him to reach 4-star. Could it be that I can't surpass him in this lifetime? Marquis Swordstar was extremely unwilling. As a genius, no one was willing to submit to others. There was a saying that a soldier who didn't want to be a general was not a good soldier. It was the same for geniuses. No, I must grasp sword domain. Once I do, I might be able to step into the 4-star realm and become a peak king. Currently, Marquis Swordstar only had mid 3-star battle strength. When he raised his profound to a level that was hard to raise, he would have peak 3-star battle strength or even 3-star tyrant battle strength. Once he grasped sword domain, he would be able to contend against low 4-star battle strength and become a peak king. Apart from this, Yi Chen's strength had also aroused Marquis Swordstar's original motivation. 7-star instant kill sword art had 7 strikes, and he had just grasped the 6th strike, life strike. According to reason, there was still a long way to go before he could grasp the 7th strike of 7-star instant kill sword art as soon as possible, as well as the final strike. He believed that once he fully comprehended the 7-star instant kill sword art, even Yi Chen might not be able to defeat him. Perhaps, he would be able to defeat Yi Chen by relying on the 7-star instant kill sword art. Teacher, I will go to the sword world in a while. Marquis Sword Star took a deep breath and said. That's natural. However, your heart can't be disturbed. The most important thing right now is to raise your profound and comprehend the 6th strike of 7-star instant kill sword art, Life Strike, to perfection. On the path of cultivation, the most taboo is to raise one's strength blindly. You have to plan slowly, Azure Cloud Sword Emperor warned. Yes, Tian Chen will keep it in mind. Marquis Sword Star. On a certain island in the deep sea, Marquis Sword Snow raised his head and looked at the multicolored heavenly flowers as he called out a person's name. During the first deluge of heavenly flowers, he vaguely knew that it was Yi Chen, but he wasn't sure. This time, he subconsciously called out Marquis Sword Star's name. Marquis Sword Star was the first to comprehend Death Dao, and he was the closest to life and death realm. Marquis Sword Snow couldn't imagine anyone else apart from Yi Chen. Walking on the frost-covered island, Marquis Sword Snow discarded all distracting thoughts and poured his heart and soul into comprehending the Tao of life. One could see with the naked eye that some ice and snow had already started to sprout. It added a little green to the snow-covered ground. The 5-colored sky flower could be seen in every corner of Elysium. Naturally, everyone knew that a new ruler had been born, but they didn't know who it was. Another person has entered life and death realm. Who is it? Could it be another genius? That's impossible. Perhaps it's one of those veteran half-step kings. They've been stuck in the half-step king realm for countless years. Although they have no hope of entering life and death chamber, by chance, they can vaguely sense the cycle of life and death and directly enter life and death realm, becoming a new king. When geniuses entered life and death realm, their battle strength would generally be 2 stars or above. Only those who had entered life and death realm by chance only had 1-star battle strength. However, geniuses were the minority, and ordinary life and death kings were the majority. Perhaps it's Marquis Sword Star. In the void, Yi Chen muttered to himself. The more new kings there are, the greater the hope of Elysium's survival. Since the heavens have made this era a great era, the following era will surely be a period of kings. Chapter 926. Marquis Sword Star's breakthrough did not make Yi Chen feel any sense of urgency. In fact, Yi Chen hoped that the geniuses of the same generation as him would also break through, such as Marquis Sword Snow, Du Guju, Dantai Mingyu, and so on. Having only one genius in one generation was a sad thing. Only with competition would there be more motivation. Let's find the secret realm first. With a flash, Yi Chen turned into a transparent ripple and rapidly approached the light dot. The light dot grew bigger and bigger, and Yi Chen could already see clearly that it was not a light dot, but a glowing spherical space. This spherical space had a diameter of 3,000 meters, and it looked very small in the boundless void. It was like a white glass ball, flickering in and out. Soon, Yi Chen arrived in front of the spherical space and stopped. I'll have to rely on you. Yi Chen knew that the people inside couldn't see the outside, just like how he couldn't see or sense the inside. If he wanted to enter, there were only 2 ways. One was to break the spherical space barrier and force his way in, and the other was to rely on the Dragon Pearl's power and walk in naturally. Obviously, Yi Chen would choose the latter. The golden Dragon Pearl in his hand resonated with the spherical space, emitting an intense golden radiance. With a fling of his hand, the pearl floated above Yi Chen's head. At the same time, Yi Chen stepped on the void and walked toward the spherical space step by step. Buzz. The moment Yi Chen came in contact with the spherical space barrier, the translucent space barrier immediately rippled like water. In the next moment, Yi Chen merged into it and disappeared. Not good, someone's coming from outside. Yi Chen's entrance caused a huge uproar in the secret realm. From the outside, the spherical space seemed to have a diameter of 3,000 meters. However, inside, it was more than 3,000 meters. In fact, half of the 10,000 meters diameter spherical space was made up of soil, which was the ground. Buildings of different heights were arranged in an orderly manner, trying to accommodate as many people as possible without being too chaotic. At this moment, in the middle of the many buildings, on a white jade plaza, thousands of people heard the commotion and gathered. After all, the arcane realm was only so big, so they gathered very quickly. Who could have entered the secret realm so easily? Gathered on the plaza were the elites of Dragon God Celestial Palace. There were left and right protectors, members of Elders Association, core disciples, hall masters and deputy hall masters of 5 Dragons Palace, as well as some battle attendants. At this moment, all of them wore nervous expressions, their eyes unblinkingly gazing above. The space there was distorting, and a golden silhouette was slowly emerging. Why does he look like Yi Chen? No one knew who said it. A figure appeared. Who else could it be but Yi Chen? Dressed in blue, Yi Chen descended from the sky and stood on the white jade plaza. The golden dragon pearl on his head was still emitting a golden glow. Yi Chen, Elder Yu, a member of the Elder Council, shouted. Elder Yu, long time no see. Yi Chen smiled. It's really Yi Chen. On the plaza, heated discussions arose. While everyone let out a sigh of relief, they discovered that Yi Chen's aura was no longer the same as before. He was clearly a life and death king. Yi Chen, no, Your Majesty Dragon God Envoy, you've broken through? Elder Yu and the other elders walked over and said in pleasant surprise. Yi Chen nodded, not concealing anything. This is great. Palace Master's insight is indeed not something we can compare to. To be able to break through to life and death realm in such a short time, you're the first in several tens of thousands of years. Right now, Her Majesty is also breaking through. Once she succeeds, our Dragon God Celestial Palace will have 2 life and death kings. The people of Dragon God Celestial Palace felt as if the bitterness was over and the sweetness was beginning. Dragon King had charged into the path of death. Whether he succeeded or failed, he would not return. If he succeeded, he would naturally leave Elysium, and if he wanted to enter, it would not be so easy. If he failed, he would naturally die. Therefore, when Dragon King sent them into the secret realm, they knew that Dragon God Celestial Palace would face an extremely dangerous situation in the days to come. If they wanted to break away from this situation, they could only do so if a new king appeared. Her Majesty Goddess Shu Jing's true form was a golden dragon. Some of them knew that once Shu Jing broke through to life and death realm, her strength would reach an extremely frightening level. Just think about it, a golden dragon of life and death realm was not something any demonic king could compare to. A true dragon had always been the strongest, and there was no second to it. Perhaps the legendary phoenix could compare to a dragon, but it could never surpass it. Shu Jing was formidable, but Yi Chen was not weak at all. On the contrary, in everyone's eyes, Yi Chen was a demonic genius that had faintly transcended the limits of his race. Who in the world didn't know of Yi Chen's name? He had received the title of Swordmaster in his early days, and later on, he had become the first in the life and death substitute list. He had defeated the demonic king Giant Wolf King with only life and death chamber cultivation. Yi Chen alone had obtained all the glory that could be obtained. The geniuses of the same generation paled in comparison to him. Now that Yi Chen had become a life and death king, the people of Dragon God Celestial Palace in the secret realm didn't know how powerful he was. However, if one were to say that Yi Chen was not powerful and was just an ordinary king, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Yi Chen had defeated the demonic king Giant Wolf King before becoming a life and death king. How could he be weak? With Shu Jing and Yi Chen, Dragon God Celestial Palace returning to its former glory was only a matter of time. Yi Chen, what's the situation outside? Amidst his joy, Great Elder didn't forget to ask Yi Chen about the current situation of Dragon God Celestial Palace. Actually, this was his subconscious. After all, his feelings for Dragon God Celestial Palace were too deep. He had spent his entire life in Dragon God Celestial Palace. For him, Dragon God Celestial Palace was his home. Hearing these words, everybody looked at Yi Chen expectantly. They were clear that Dragon God Celestial Palace had most likely been occupied by the 4 major powers. Moreover, Yi Chen had just broken through to life and death realm, so he couldn't do anything to the 4 major powers. Moreover, The four major powers had the backing of Red-Eyed Black Dragon Clan and Black Dragon Old Ancestor. What they wanted to know was whether the four major powers had slaughtered the members of Dragon God Celestial Palace. Yi Chen faintly smiled. Everyone, rest assured. Dragon God Celestial Palace has been recaptured. What? Dragon God Celestial Palace has been recaptured? No one had expected Yi Chen to say something like this. Yi Chen? Elder Yu looked at Yi Chen. Yi Chen explained, the four major powers have already been driven out of Dragon God Celestial Palace by me. Therefore, everyone can rest assured. Dragon God Celestial Palace will not be in danger for a long time. The four major powers won't dare to attack again unless they're tired of living. That Black Dragon Old Ancestor didn't appear. Don't tell me you're already a peak king? Great Elder was very excited and apprehensively asked. He appeared, but he can't do anything to me. Yi Chen's reply gave everybody a boost in confidence. Although they didn't know why Black Dragon Old Ancestor couldn't do anything to Yi Chen, they could understand after thinking about it. Yi Chen was proficient in Space Profound. He must have relied on it to make Black Dragon Old Ancestor feel apprehensive. Between peak kings and titled monarchs, the smallest difference was speed. Some peak kings were even faster than titled monarchs. This Yi Chen saved my Dragon God Celestial Palace. He's a peak king. Among the crowd, the ones with the most complicated emotions were the head disciple Lin Tsunghai and second disciple Li Feng. These two had some small conflicts with Yi Chen. As if noticing their gazes, Yi Chen faintly smiled and glanced at them. He didn't take the previous small conflicts to heart. Geniuses were all proud. As long as they didn't have any malicious intent, it would be fine. Moreover, he was now a life and death king. How could he purposely make things difficult for Lin Tsunghai and Li Feng? In his heart, he still hoped that the two could break through to life and death realm as soon as possible and protect the Dragon God Celestial Palace. For a moment, the news of Yi Chen becoming a peak king shocked everybody. It was their first time hearing that there was such a genius who dared to challenge Black Dragon Old Ancestor as soon as he entered life and death realm. Where is my senior sister Shu Jing? Yi Chen suddenly asked. She's in the dragon transformation pool, but she shouldn't be disturbed at the moment. Elder Yu replied. No problem. I'll just go in and take a look. Yi Chen said. Taking a look shouldn't be a problem. Let's go. Elder Yu led the way, while the others remained in the plaza, discussing and glancing at Yi Chen from time to time. The secret realm was very small, and the palace in front of the plaza was precisely the location of the dragon transformation pool. Senior Brother Yi, Your Majesty Dragon God Envoy. The guards of the palace were all women, led by Dragon God Celestial Palace's fifth disciple Chen Yusin and former Azure Dragon Hall's battle attendant Xing Meilian. These two had long since noticed Yi Chen. However, they didn't dare to leave their posts without permission. Seeing Yi Chen's arrival, their faces revealed reverence. Junior Sister Chen, attendant Xing Yi Chen remembered these two. Back when he was fighting against the four major powers, these two were his subordinates. Is Senior Brother Yi going to see Her Majesty Goddess? This way. Chen Yusin took the initiative to open the palace's door for Yi Chen. I'll go in alone. Yi Chen sucked in a deep breath and entered the palace. Although the palace wasn't spacious, it was simple and unadorned. Entering the palace, the inside was vast and spacious. The front was blocked by a screen wall. Behind the screen wall, a golden radiance shone. Accompanying the golden radiance was an extremely pure and frightening dragon might. This was the true dragon might. Although it wasn't as powerful as the Black Dragon Old Ancestor's dragon might, its essence was countless times more powerful. It gave off a feeling of supremacy and grandeur. Bypassing the screen wall, Yi Chen saw a pool of water. The pool was golden in color, 100 meters long and 50 meters wide. It was visible to the naked eye. Inside the pool, a golden substance was converging, condensing, and ultimately flowing toward the center. In the center of the pool, there was no human figure, only a small golden dragon. This little golden dragon was only a dozen meters long. Although its scales were golden, they didn't seem like gold, but more like golden crystals. The little golden dragon had 5 claws, and there was a pair of horns on its head. Occasionally, golden light would flow along the horns. Overall, the little golden dragon looked very graceful and delicate, but the dragon might it emitted was too strong. It was the complete opposite of what it should be. Chapter 927. Senior Apprentice Sister Shu Jing. Yi Chen immediately knew that this little golden dragon was none other than Shu Jing. Shu Jing's original form was that of a golden dragon. For some unknown reason, she had turned into a human. Currently, this dragon transformation pool had the effect of allowing her to return to her original form. Once she did so, she would no longer be a human, but a true golden dragon. Of course, after reaching the demonic king realm, golden dragons could also turn into humans. Vaguely, the little golden dragon seemed to have sensed Yi Chen's arrival and opened its elegant and noble eyes. Junior Apprentice Brother Yi. The little golden dragon swam over and raised its horned head. Senior Apprentice Sister Shu Jing, can you still not change back? Yi Chen involuntarily extended his palm and caressed the little golden dragon's horn. It was cool and smooth. The little golden dragon felt very comfortable being caressed, and a trace of redness appeared on its face as it said, "Dragon transformation is usually at the demonic king realm. Wait until I become a demonic king, then I can transform." Generally speaking, the more powerful a demonic beast was, the harder it would be to transform. However, those that could transform at the demonic king realm were few and far between. Of course, there were some exceptions. Some powerful demonic beasts could transform very early. Do I look very ugly right now? The little golden dragon suddenly asked nervously. Yi Chen smiled. How could that be? If you're not used to this body, you can reach the demonic king realm as soon as possible. After chatting for a while, the golden dragon started to feel sleepy. It turned out that Shu Jing was in the middle of a breakthrough, and would need a long period of sleep before she could do it normally. Not wanting to disturb her, Yi Chen quietly left the palace and closed the door. Senior Apprentice Brother Yi. Seeing Yi Chen come out, Chen Yusin immediately became spirited. Yi Chen said, "The Dragon God Celestial Palace has been reclaimed. I'll bring the others out, but you guys can't leave yet. You have to guard this place until the goddess succeeds." Yusin understands. Senior Apprentice Brother Yi, don't worry. Your Highness Dragon God Envoy, Yusin, and I will protect Her Highness Goddess, Xing Melian said. Very good. Thank you for your hard work. As he spoke, Yi Chen took out 2 heart-nurturing grasses and 2 spirit-melting grasses from his storage ring and gave them to the 2. Your foundations are not bad. Breaking through to Half-Step King Realm is just around the corner. These 2 grasses are heart-nurturing grasses and spirit-melting grasses. They can help you enter Half-Step King Realm even faster. Half-Step King Realm was a barrier. Once one broke through, they would have the hope of reaching Life and Death Realm. Otherwise, they would never be able to reach Life and Death Realm. In Yi Chen's opinion, Chen Yusin not only had the hope of reaching Half-Step King Realm, but she might also reach Life and Death Challenge Realm. Xing Melian's talent was a bit lacking, but she still had the hope of becoming a normal Life and Death Realm warrior. Of course, those who could reach this realm all had hopes of entering Life and Death Realm. Yi Chen was only helping them improve a bit faster. Whether or not they could enter Life and Death Realm would depend on themselves. Many thanks, Senior Brother Yi. Many thanks, Dragon God Envoy. The 2 girls revealed a joyful expression. They could actually break through to Half-Step King Realm as well, but it was still a bit difficult for them at the moment. A single mistake could lead to blood necrosis, which was quite dangerous. However, with the heart-nurturing grasses and spirit-melting grasses, the danger had been reduced by more than half. The Dragon God Celestial Palace had already been recovered. Without the support of the Black Dragon Old Ancestor, the 4 forces most likely wouldn't dare to invade. Apart from the many women guarding Shu Jing, Yi Chen brought the others out of the secret realm. I'll leave this place to you. On this day, after Yi Chen finished handing over some matters, he tore open the space and headed in the direction of South Rudra region. The news of Yi Chen becoming a Life and Death King had already reached the South Rudra region, the Windy Nation, and the Yi family and Sky Cloud Martial School. However, The people of Yi family and Sky Cloud sect had been waiting for Yi Chen to return. Xiao Xiao, when do you think Big Brother will return? On a small mountain peak not far from Yi family, a young man and a young woman gazed into the distance, their eyes full of expectation. The young man and the young woman were both about 14 or 15 years old. The young man somewhat resembled Yi Chen, delicate and handsome. The young woman had snow-white skin, bright eyes, and white teeth. At this moment, the young man turned his head and said to the young woman sitting on the treetop. The young woman grumbled, "You ask me? Who should I ask?" "Me. Big Brother certainly doesn't miss us. Otherwise, why would he not return for so long?" Xiao Xiao, Xiao Xian. Right at this moment, the space twisted, and a figure walked out. Wearing blue clothes and black hair, he wore a smile on his face. Big Brother. The young man and young woman turned around, their faces full of surprise. The young man and young woman were indeed Yi Chen's younger siblings, Yi Xian and Yi Xiao Xiao. However, when Yi Chen left the continent, they were only 10 years old. Now, they were already 14 or 15 years old. They had too many concerns for Yi Chen. Although they were no longer young, they still threw themselves into Yi Chen's embrace and tightly hugged him. Caressing his younger siblings' heads, Yi Chen sighed with emotion. In the blink of an eye, his younger siblings had grown up. He remembered that when he crossed over to Elysium, he was only 14 years old, the same age as them. At this moment, Yi Chen's expression was a bit absent-minded, feeling that time had truly passed very quickly. Big Brother, you haven't changed a bit. Yi Xiao Xiao raised her charming face and looked at Yi Chen with a strange expression. Yi Chen's appearance had long since stagnated at the age of 20. Now that he had broken through to life and death realm, it was normal for his appearance to remain unchanged for hundreds of years. Standing next to Yi Xian and Yi Xiao Xiao, he was only a few years older than them. However, Yi Chen's eyes no longer had the childishness of youth, but contained a faint dignity and unswerving determination. Big Brother is a life and death realm warrior. It is normal for you to not change your appearance. Yi Xian sniffled. When I was not here, did you guys slack off? Letting go of the two, Yi Chen took a step back and looked at the two. Their cultivation was not bad, they were only 14 or 15 years old, but they had already reached the early clasping Yuan realm. When Yi Chen was 14 or 15 years old, he had only reached the condensing reality realm. Of course, Yi Chen was not surprised at all. Not long after the two were born, they had already touched the most powerful dragon fountain chi that he had obtained from the hidden dragon ancient city. Added with his support, the Yi family basically did not lack anything. They could get whatever they wanted, which was not any weaker than a rank 5 martial institution. With so many advantages, it was normal for them to reach early clasping Yuan realm at the age of 14. However, Yi Chen understood that cultivation was only the foundation. What truly determined one's talent was still experience and determination. Big Brother, we have been working very hard. Oh, let me see your hard work. Yi Chen had a smile on his face as he asked Yi Xian and Yi Xiao Xiao to show him a sword art. The first one to show her sword art was Yi Xiao Xiao. Although Yi Xiao Xiao was still young, she had already grown into a beauty. After showing her sword art, it was so beautiful that it was very pleasing to the eyes. However, Yi Chen sighed. She still lacked training after all, and her sword art did not have any special features at all. If they were at the same cultivation level, Yi Xiao Xiao might be able to win against her opponent. But if her cultivation was higher than hers, then it would be dangerous. It should be known that martial geniuses were not only unbeatable within the same cultivation, but they could also fight beyond their cultivation and kill people who were way more powerful than them. Yi Xiao Xiao was extremely talented in training, but when it came to battling, she was not even close to being a martial genius. She could only be considered above average. Big Brother, how is it? Yi Xiao Xiao looked at Yi Chen with trepidation. Yi Chen didn't want to dampen her enthusiasm, but he also didn't want her to be too optimistic. You still need to practice more. Don't waste your cultivation talent. It's my turn, Big Brother. Yi Xian couldn't wait to practice his sword art. Seeing Yi Xian's sword art, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. With his eyesight, He could easily see that his brother's sword art was not only incomparably sharp, but it also contained killing intent. Each move and each style was endless, and he could vaguely feel that he had already touched the edge of sword intent. The sword chi was restrained and not released, and each step was shocking. "You've killed before?" Yi Chen asked. Yi Xiaoxiao rushed to answer, "Big brother, this little rascal is not obedient at all. He often kills people in the pugilistic world. Half a year ago, he even uprooted a village by himself. Father and mother are both worried about him. The people I kill are all evil." Yi Xian hurried to explain. Yi Chen laughed, "Sword arts are meant to be used to kill. I don't blame you. Although you are my brother, I don't want you to grow up in a greenhouse. But, you have to remember, when you are in danger, you have to use your brain. You have to judge the situation and act according to your power. You can't act blindly. This is very important." Yi Xian's battle talent had touched Yi Chen's heart a bit. He felt that his brother had the possibility of becoming a powerful warrior. With proper training, he might even reach the life and death realm. But, that was under the condition that he had enough experiences and opportunities. "All right, let's go home." Waving his big sleeves, the three disappeared from the mountain. When they reappeared, they were already in the Yi family. The news of Yi Chen's return spread like wildfire, and the whole South Rudra region was boiling. How many years had it been? The whole South Rudra region hadn't produced a single life and death realm king. This had caused all the native warriors to walk out of the South Rudra region. They thought that the South Rudra region had been cursed and no longer had the luck to produce a life and death realm king. However, the return of Yi Chen had broken this curse. Yi Chen had been a legend in the South Rudra region in his early years. And now, Yi Chen had become a legend. He had risen from a trash youngster and eventually become a life and death realm king. His life gave people a dreamy feeling. Yi Chen's experience had inspired countless youngsters. Many of the famous young experts had more or less been influenced by Yi Chen. Since Yi Chen could become a powerful warrior, why couldn't they? Even if they couldn't reach Yi Chen's achievements, at least they wouldn't have any regrets. The Yi family of the South Rudra region used to be a rank 9 family. As Yi Chen grew stronger, so did the Yi family. From rank 9 to rank 8, to rank 7, and now, it had suddenly jumped to rank 5. Rank 5 Yi family. King family. Once a family reached rank 5, its significance would be extraordinary. King family. This was not an honor ordinary families could enjoy. At this moment, the Yi family had truly become a legendary family. Chapter 928. The Yi family was quite lively today. Not only had a lot of people from the South Rudra Martial School and the Sky Cloud Martial School arrived, but there were also people from other martial schools. The leader of the Murong family, Murong Jishure, has arrived. The headmaster of the Dragon God Celestial Palace has arrived. The first ones to arrive were the people who were related to Yi Chen. Of course, they would not come empty-handed. They had brought a huge amount of treasures as gifts. Son-in-law, congratulations on reaching the life and death realm. Congratulations. Murong Jishure was full of smiles. Now that Yi Chen had become a top king warrior, his Murong family would naturally rise. Although he was not a vain person, he was not alone. He still had a huge family that needed his leadership. How could he not be happy about Yi Chen's power? Moreover, he had heard from Yi Chen that his daughter, Murong Qingcheng, was training under the demonic human emperor in the chaotic demon ocean, and had a bright future ahead of her. "Uncle, please sit here." Yi Chen arranged a seat for Murong Jishure. The leader of the Sky-Flying Demon Martial School has arrived. The leader of the Fire Spirit Martial School has arrived. The leader of the Extreme Ice Martial School has arrived. The leader of the Heartless Martial School has arrived. The leader of the Sky Falling Martial School has arrived. The leader of the Sunset Martial School has arrived. Besides the Floating Mountain Martial School, 6 of the original 7 rank 6 martial schools in the South Rudra region had come to congratulate Yi Chen as well. They were all led by their leaders, walking from far away, not daring to show any disrespect. Accompanying them were geniuses from the same generation as Yi Chen, such as Yang Qihua, Bing Ling, Li Daoxian, and so on. Head disciple, is he Yi Chen? Right next to Li Daoxian was a group of young disciples. When Yi Chen was in the South Rudra region, they were still young, and had never seen him in person. Right now, their hearts were beating extremely fast, and they could not help but ask in a low voice. Li Daoxian said, "Haven't you already seen the portrait?" The ones with the most complicated feelings were naturally the peak geniuses of South Rudra region from the same generation as Yi Chen. Although they had already become half-step kings, Yi Chen had become a peak king. The gap between the two was immeasurable, just like the gap between a 5th grade sect and a 9th grade sect. "Brother Li, Brother Yang, Miss Bing, this way please." Yi Chen didn't put on any airs and welcomed them with a smile. The 6 sect leaders and many disciples were overwhelmed by the favor and didn't know what to do. The reputation of the Yi family was too big, and Yi Chen's reputation was like the sun in the sky. Besides the rank 6 martial institutions, the martial institutions below rank 6 did not even have the right to enter the palace. This was not because Yi Chen had set up the ranking system, but because the Yi family was too small at the moment. It was impossible for them to welcome everyone, so only the people under them could do it. Besides the main palace, many of the branches of the Yi family were filled with guests, which made all the servants of the Yi family dumbfounded. The leader of the water ape race, Sun Tai, has arrived. Among the many 6th grade sects that had come, a heavyweight force had finally arrived. "Haha, little brother Yi, I'm late." Sun Tai was no longer a half-step beast king, but a real beast king. He was also the first king-level warrior who had come to congratulate Yi Chen. Beside him were Sun Xiaojin, who had already become a half-step beast king, and Wang Snake and Wang Mai. "Big brother." Wang Snake saw Yi Chen, and his eyes turned red. "Sorry, I haven't had the chance to visit you guys." Yi Chen felt a bit sorry. After entering the life and death realm, he had been increasing his power in preparation for the Dragon God Celestial Palace. He was planning to visit the South Shallow Ocean after finishing his business in the Yi family. But he did not expect that Sun Tai had already received the news and brought the 3 over. "I'm the one who is ashamed. Having made a friend like little brother Yi, I couldn't help much." Back then, Sun Tai thought highly of Yi Chen's potential, and wanted to use the power of his whole race to help Yi Chen, hoping that Yi Chen would one day become a king warrior and remember the water ape race. However, Yi Chen's progress was too fast, and the water ape race could not help much. Now that Yi Chen was already a peak king warrior, it would be fine as long as the water ape race did not drag him down. Why would he need his help? Yi Chen said, "Senior son, you're treating me like an outsider. My brother and sister have troubled you for a long time, and have already received your favor." Sun Tai was also a straightforward person, so he said with a smile, "Since I've come, I naturally can't come empty-handed. Consider this upper-grade spirit vein as a congratulatory gift." Saying these words, Sun Tai waved his right hand, and a huge shadow suddenly flew in from outside the Yi family. Many guests were stupefied upon seeing it. It turned out to be a 20 to 30 li long upper-grade spirit vein, meandering like a dragon. The boundless yuan qi of spirit stones had been completely sealed by Sun Tai with a special method, not letting even a trace leak out. Senior son, how could Yi Chen not understand what he meant? He was now a life and death king, and he needed spirit veins to arrange a great array to protect Yi family. It was just like the 99 spirit veins of Dragon God Celestial Palace, which could be used to arrange the 99 origin returning great array and become the core of the array, providing energy for other great arrays. "Haha, Xiao Jin, let's go drink." Sun Tai waved his hand and entered the main palace. Thunder Empire's Black Thunder King has arrived. Golden Sand Region's Rakshasa Sect's sect leader has arrived. Floating Light Region's 7-star Pavilion's pavilion leader has arrived. Sun Tai's arrival seemed to be the prelude to the arrival of king warriors. Soon, another 3 life and death king warriors arrived. They were the Thunder Empire's Black Thunder King, the leader of Chu Zhongqian's Killing Luo School, and the leader of Edict Prince's 7-star pavilion. All 3 of them were life and death king warriors, and they were not something that Sun Tai, who had just entered the realm, could compete with. The Black Thunder King and the leader of Killing Luo School were both mid-rank king warriors, while the leader of Seven Star Pavilion was a high-rank king warrior. Following the three were Jing Aoshuan, Chu Zhongtian, and Li Xiaoyun. As king warriors, normal treasures were obviously not something that could be given out. Just like Sun Tai, the three brought top-grade spirit veins as gifts. Among them, the Black Thunder King had wanted to kill Murong Qingcheng in the parallel space battlefield because of her identity. This time, other than congratulations, he also wanted to apologize. Therefore, he brought 2 top-grade spirit veins, which was indeed a huge investment. Brother Yi, about last time, the Black Thunder King was a bit embarrassed and nervous. Yi Chen smiled and said, "Let's not talk about the past anymore. Let's go in and drink. I have arranged an independent courtyard for you guys, so no one will disturb you." It was obviously inappropriate for life and death king warriors to sit with normal people. So, Yi Chen had already prepared for this. He arranged for these life and death king warriors and their people to sit in a luxurious courtyard for special treatment. All right. Brother Yi is indeed a generous man. The Black Thunder King let out a breath. Yi Chen's reputation was way too powerful right now, and he was no longer the ant he used to be. Otherwise, he would not have come personally to congratulate and apologize. "Yi Chen, congratulations," Chu Zhongtian said with an indifferent tone. "Yi Chen, I did not expect you to become a life and death king warrior this fast. You have left us so far behind." Jing Aoshuan and Li Xiaoyun both held their fists together as they said emotionally. Yi Chen chuckled and said, "I will be waiting for you." After arranging for people to welcome them into the luxurious courtyard, a light smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. He did not really like banquets before, but Long Bai had told him that it was necessary. Those life and death king warriors would not come empty-handed, so they would most likely send spirit veins as gifts. Therefore, he decided to hold the banquet. It turned out that the banquet was indeed necessary. Before, he was still worried about the spirit veins, but with the way things were going, it would not be a problem anymore. Just top-rank spirit veins alone, he had already gotten 10 of them. The Dragon God Heaven Palace had given him 5, Sun Tai had given him 1, the Black Thunder King had 2, and the leader of the Killing Demon Martial School and the leader of the 7-Star Pavilion had 1 each. 10 top-rank spirit veins would be a huge fortune for any rank 5 martial institution, and the price they had to pay was just a banquet. "Husband, will you not want me any more in the future?" In the welcoming group outside of the Yi family's palace, a young couple was talking in a low voice. Of this couple, the man was a disciple of the Yi family, and the woman was not some small figure either. She was the princess of a huge country in the South Rudra region. The Yi family had been like the sun in the sky for the past few years, and there were countless princesses and female disciples from the martial institutions, which made the Yi family the most complicated place in the whole South Rudra region. This disciple had quite a high status in the Yi family, so the princess was a bit worried about her status. How could it be? This disciple was very proud, but he would not neglect his beautiful wife. Really? She blinked her eyes. Seeing the welcoming group, she was shocked. Any guest in the main palace had a higher status than her father, and those life and death king warriors were people that she would not normally have the chance to see. But now, because she was the daughter-in-law of the Yi family, she had the chance to see them. The further they went, the more guests there were. Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing were worried. Shen Yuqing said, "If I had known that the banquet would be this big, I would have expanded the Yi family a couple of years ago. Right now, it is almost bursting. Don't worry. Let's squeeze a bit for today. Chen is a life and death king now, so this place is not suitable for the Yi family anymore. They will definitely move to a better place." Yi Tianhao was the happiest person today. Although those guests were trying to befriend him for his son's sake, he did not care. His son was his son, and if his son was strong, his father would be strong too. "Leader Yi, you have a good son." At this moment, a leader of a rank 6 martial institution came over to flatter him. "You flatter me." Yi Tianhao smiled brightly. "The leader of the Sky Martial Region's Sky Sea Martial School has arrived. The leader of the Sky Martial Region's Tantai family has arrived. The leader of the Sky Marshal Region's Dugu family has arrived. The leader of the Sky Marshal Regions by family has arrived. After a while, more Life and Death King warriors arrived. This time, there were 4 of them. The forces that came this time were even more frightening. The Sky Ocean Marshal School was able to do well in the Sky Marshal region, which was not something a normal rank 5 marshal school could compare with. Tantai, Dugu, and Bai families were among the top 4 families of the True Spirit continent. Not to mention the top sects of the South Rudra region, even the top forces of the True Spirit continent were huge existences. Hai Wuya and Bai Wuxue had also arrived. As for Dantai Mingyu and Dugu Ju, they did not come. They were probably still comprehending the life and death Tao, and did not have the time to congratulate. The top 4 parties had each gifted an upper-grade spirit vein. Adding them up, Yi Chen had already received 14 upper-grade spirit veins. Chapter 929. Yi Chen, congratulations. The speaker was a beautiful middle-aged woman. Her temperament was ethereal and elegant, and her aura was powerful, far surpassing the other life and death kings who had come with her. This woman was none other than the leader of Tantai family, Moon Empress. Before Xuanho's rise, Moon Empress was the #1 female king of the human race. Her strength was unfathomable, and even when standing next to Yi Chen, she was not the slightest bit weaker. She was clearly a peak king, and not an ordinary one at that. Her strength was at least high stage 4-star, or even peak 4-star. The Moon Empress's presence brings light to the Yi clan. Yi Chen walked over to greet her. Moon Empress sighed, the world is about to descend into chaos. As the first of the young generation to enter life and death realm, perhaps my Tantai family will have to rely on you in the future. Moon Empress had come to congratulate Yi Chen for entering life and death realm. Naturally, she wanted to form a good relationship with Yi Chen. Although her family already had a genius like Dantai Mingyu, there was still a gap between Dantai Mingyu and Yi Chen. Dantai Mingyu could make the Tantai family even more glorious, but the premise was that they could survive this great calamity. Moon Empress must be joking. As he spoke, Yi Chen led the Moon Empress and the others into the luxurious courtyard. Besides the kings of the sects, there were also some solitary kings. Among these kings, Yi Chen had heard of most of them, but there was still a small portion that Yi Chen had never seen or heard of. As the saying goes, those who came were guests. Although Yi Chen didn't know them, he didn't want to leave them out in the cold. At the very least, these people had brought precious gifts and weren't here to cause trouble. Inside the luxurious courtyard, the number of life and death kings kept increasing. It was already close to 20 people. Close to 20 life and death kings in the same courtyard was a rare thing. However, because of Yi Chen's presence, they all came and chatted happily. However, Yi Chen could tell that even among life and death kings, there was a difference in status. Normally, low-level kings would drink with low-level kings, mid-level kings would drink with mid-level kings, and high-level kings would drink with high-level kings. There were 3 peak-level kings, Moon Empress, Dugu family's patriarch, and Bai family's patriarch. These 3 naturally became the center of the crowd. All the life and death kings who could come had come, and those who didn't would not come next year. However, everyone knew that there was one more person who would come. If she didn't come, the whole banquet would be overshadowed. Finally, a voice sounded. The leader of the Tianwu region's Xian sect has arrived. It's here. Everyone held their breaths and looked out of the hall. Xianhu, who was dressed in white and had long black hair like a waterfall, walked over with Yang Fengfeng, who was dressed in blue and had elegant facial features. Senior Yang. Yi Chen welcomed him with a smile. Yang Fengfeng chuckled, Yi Chen, my master and I have come so late to borrow top-rank spirit veins for you. We have brought 9 top-rank spirit veins in total. 9 top-rank spirit veins? Yi Chen was surprised and touched at the same time. Top-rank spirit veins were not cabbages, and were usually in the hands of rank 5 martial institutions. But, rank 5 martial institutions also needed top-rank spirit veins for great formations, and the extra ones would have to be provided for their disciples to train. Therefore, it would be hard for them to have extra. Therefore, those king-level martial institutions had already shown their sincerity by giving out one top-rank spirit vein. Since the Black Thunder King had some conflicts with Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng, he had paid a lot to give them one more. He had never expected that Xian Hu would give out 9 at once, and even go around to borrow them. "Thank you, Senior Yang, for such a big gift," Yi Chen said gratefully. "They are just some external things. Don't think too much of them." Xian Hu had noticed the Moon Queen in the luxurious yard, so she said to Yi Chen, "I will go and meet up with the Moon Queen. You go on with your business." Yi Chen was indeed very busy. This banquet was held for him, so he had to show up in person. Otherwise, why would people come and congratulate him? Why would they give him so many valuable treasures? It was all just to see him in person. Normally, most of the martial geniuses would hold a banquet when they reached the life and death realm. The first reason was to see who would be on their side, and the second was to show off their generosity. After being busy for a long time, Yi Chen finally had the chance to go to the luxurious yard and meet up with the life and death realm warriors. "Little brother Yi, we have been waiting for you." Sun Tai and the 2 early rank beast kings were having a great time drinking. Seeing Yi Chen walking over, they called out. Yi Chen walked over. "Yi Chen, I am Pangolin King, and this is my friend Hummingbird King." Of the 2 demon monarchs drinking with Sun Tai, one was a pangolin and the other was a hummingbird. The pangolin monarch was short, but he wasn't thin at all. He had a wide back, while the hummingbird monarch was an ordinary-looking woman with an exquisite figure. "Sorry for the poor reception. I hope you two don't mind." Yi Chen cupped his fists and said apologetically, "Not at all. Being able to meet one of the top geniuses from the ancient times until now, I, Hummingbird King, am already very satisfied." Hummingbird King flattered. After exchanging some pleasantries with each of the life and death kings, Yi Chen arrived at the central circle, where all the peak kings were present. Xian Hu, Moon Queen, Dugu family leader, and Bai family leader were present. The others would at most say a few words, not daring to sit together with them. "Sister Yang, your insight is much better than mine. How come I didn't notice such a genius with potential back then?" Seeing Yi Chen, Moon Queen teased Xian Hu and Yang Qingxian. Yang Qingxian smiled, "Your family already has a genius. If you place your attention on other geniuses, you won't look greedy." He, why would geniuses be afraid of having too many? Moon Queen would be lying if she said she didn't regret it. Sometimes, she would think how great it would be if the little girl Mingyu and Yi Chen could be together. Yi Chen poured wine and fruits for the 4, then raised his cup and said, "Thank you all for coming. Yi Chen is honored. I hope we can get along well in the future, and no unpleasant things will happen." "Definitely." The 4 stood up and raised their cups. It was late at night, and the guests had already left. On the roof of the main palace, a bright moon was shining in the sky, and 2 figures were standing side by side. "This banquet has created a lot of momentum for you. It's easy to see that Tantai family, Dugu family, and Bai family are all willing to get close to you. With the support of the 3 families, you will truly have the right to speak in Elysium. Even a titled monarch will not provoke you." White clothes fluttering in the wind, Xian Hu raised her head to look at the bright moon and said. Yi Chen crossed his hands behind his back and said, "Actually, what they care about is my strength. Since I have strength, they naturally don't want to offend me. If I can't break through for a long time, who knows what they will think? That's natural. No matter what beautiful words are used to describe it, the essence of this world is the survival of the fittest. Outside of Elysium, it's still the same. Therefore, you can't stop right now until you reach the peak." Xian Hu couldn't see through Yi Chen at all. Yi Chen was like a dense fog, becoming more and more unfathomable. It was just like his speed of improvement, which was simply too shocking. In this era, there could be a genius comparable to the ancient era. Who would have thought that? Even Xian Hu didn't expect it. She was a bit worried about Yi Chen. The more amazing a genius was, the more things they would encounter. Ordinary people lived an ordinary life, but the life of a genius was always full of ups and downs. The 2 chatted all the way until dawn. When the sky started to brighten, Xian Hu left with Yang Fengfeng. Slowly letting out a breath, Yi Chen looked at the horizon of the horizon and grabbed at the air, as if he wanted to grab the sun that had yet to rise. 24 upper-grade spirit veins. This was the harvest of a banquet. Dragon God Celestial Palace only had 17 upper-grade spirit veins. Of course, upper-grade spirit veins also had different quality. Most of the upper-grade spirit veins Yi Chen had obtained were low-grade ones, and a few were mid-grade ones. On the other hand, Dragon God Celestial Palace had a super-grade upper-grade spirit vein and several upper-grade ones. Comparing the two, Yi Chen's upper-grade spirit veins seemed to be more numerous, but the overall effect was not as good as that of Dragon God Celestial Palace. Apart from the upper-grade spirit veins, Yi Chen had also obtained 32 mid-grade spirit veins, which were all gifted by 6th-grade sects. Not to mention ordinary 6th-grade sects, for some powerful 6th-grade sects, gifting a mid-grade spirit vein was nothing. Even if they didn't have a good relationship with the Yi family, they could at least show their sincerity. With 24 upper-grade spirit veins and 32 mid-grade spirit veins, as well as the 3 mid-grade spirit veins and some lower-grade spirit veins of the Yi family, they could barely arrange the 99 origin return great array. However, even though they had enough spirit veins, they still hadn't found a good sect. The current Yi family was already a 5th-grade sect. They couldn't just casually find a place and build some buildings. They had to choose a place with good geomancy and environment. This aspect was very particular. After all, humans didn't live in an empty space. They needed to interact with the outside world. In the whole of Elysium, there would always be barren hills and unruly rivers, as well as heavenly paradises. It was just like an ordinary person's body, there were healthy parts and weak parts. With his soul eyes, it was too easy for Yi Chen to choose a good place. 3 days later, the location of the Yi family's construction had been confirmed. It would be on the left side of the center of the South Rudra region. It looked normal, but Yi Chen had seen through the whole South Rudra region. He could vaguely sense that it would be the perfect place for a dragon to raise its head. Now that the location had been found, the next step would be to find the mountains. Xuanho's mysterious martial school didn't have that many mountains. It was Xianhu who had used her power to move them over from other places. A lot of king warriors would do the same thing. Of course, it would be the northern region. Most of the northern region was controlled by the barbarian race, so the mountains there were the most primitive, and most of the wild mountains had been preserved there. Yi Chen had moved 27 mountains in one go. Besides the outer 18 mountains, the inner 9 mountains each had 9 spirit veins buried under them. The one in the center had the best top-grade spirit veins. Therefore, after setting up the 99 origin return great array, the center mountain would become the place with the densest yuan qi, which would be the core of the Yi family. Chapter 930. The 99 origin return great formation was a secret of the Dragon God Celestial Palace. When the Dragon King had given the Golden Dragon Ball to Yi Chen, he had also imparted it to him. Fortunately, it had been imparted early. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Yi Chen to comprehend the formation in such a short time. After all, formations were different from martial arts. One had to have a certain foundation. Without a solid foundation, one would be helpless no matter how talented one was. Rise. On the central peak, Yi Chen spread his hands and let out a low roar. Following the roar, the veins under the 27 mountains began to tremble. In the next instant, 81 beams of spiritual qi were fired into the sky and into the clouds. The spirit qi light pillar was hundreds of meters thick, and contained a vast amount of yuan qi from the spirit stones. Without exaggeration, if one of the spirit qi light pillars were to attack a city, it would definitely be flattened, and there would be no chance of survival at all. Because right then, Yi Chen had already activated all of the spirit qi in the spirit vein. The spirit qi light column contained a shocking amount of spirit qi, and Yi Chen would naturally not let it go. He waved both of his hands in the air, and those 81 spirit qi light columns shot up into the sky like huge dragons, drawing beautiful arcs in the air as they attacked toward Yi Chen, who was on the ground. Just as the spirit qi light pillars were about to hit Yi Chen did not panic. He put his hands together and, With an unimaginable speed, he formed 9 seals in one breath. After the seals were completed, the spirit chi light pillars became gentle and danced around Yi Chen. If one were to look from far away, they would be able to see 8,100-meter-thick rainbows circling around Yi Chen, forming a huge light sphere. The color of the sphere was mottled, leaning toward a milky yellow color. Next is the most important step. No matter what kind of array formation was set up, one had to carve out the veins of the array formation. As for the target of carving, it depended on the environment. It could be in the water, on the ground, or even in the void. Although the 9x9 grand array could be carved in the void, it was best to carve it on the ground. The 9-9 return to origin great array had already been simulated thousands of times in Yi Chen's mind. Fortunately, Yi Chen's soul was 10 times stronger than ordinary life and death kings. Otherwise, simulating such a complicated array in his mind would be extremely taxing. If it were other life and death kings, they would have to comprehend the array step by step, and wouldn't be able to simulate it in their mind without any scruples. Bind. Exhaling, Yi Chen waved his right hand. One of the pillars of spiritual energy suddenly left the ball of light and spread rapidly along the surface of the ground, like a needle being threaded. Soon after, the second, third, fourth, a total of 8 pillars of spiritual energy spread out with Yi Chen as the center. Wherever they passed, they left glowing marks on the ground. These marks flickered, and didn't cause any damage to the surroundings. However, they caused the yuan qi of the heaven and earth to become chaotic. These 9 glowing marks formed a circle with Yi Chen as the center. The 9 mountains around Yi Chen's feet were naturally enveloped by this circle. Some of the plants on the mountains were nourished by the dense spiritual energy and were growing crazily. Some of them even broke away from the limits of ordinary plants and turned into spirit grasses or spirit trees. For a moment, specks of spiritual light flickered, and a rain of flowers fluttered in the air. The scene looked like a paradise on earth. This was not the end. The marks left behind by the 9 pillars of spiritual energy were merely the framework of the 9x9 grand array. With this framework as the foundation, many more complicated marks would need to be carved. These marks would connect with each other and influence each other, forming an endless cycle. Only then would the 9x9 grand array be completed. 1 day passed, and the circle was filled with many marks. 3 days passed, and the circle was filled with a trace of profoundness. 9 days passed, and the circle was completely formed by nature, filled with innate profoundness. From high up in the sky, this circle that was filled with brand lines was incomparably huge. It completely encircled the 9 mountain peaks. The brand lines inside were either straight lines or curved lines. They formed symbols or entangled with each other. Within the circle, they formed countless small circles, and within the small circles, there was no end to them. The spiritual chi within the spirit vein, with the marks as the hub, emitted astonishing spiritual chi fluctuations. Normally, the fluctuations would be diluted and fuse with the heaven and earth. However, with the restriction of the 9x9 grand array, the moment the spiritual chi reached the sky, it was immediately blocked by an incorporeal barrier, unable to be released. The range of the 9x9 grand array was the shape of a sphere. From the sky to the ground, there were no blind spots. Even the void was affected by an incorporeal barrier. Ordinary life and death kings couldn't even dream of breaking through space and entering the great array. Even a powerful titled monarch would be obstructed for a while. At this point, the 9x9 grand array was completed. Once the formation was complete, the visible lines of the imprints immediately turned invisible. Looking at it with the naked eye, one would not be able to see the slightest trace of it. One could only see the thin mist-like spiritual energy floating in the air, forming spiritual clouds. Grabbing at the air, Yi Chen said inwardly, "Sure enough, it can't compare to Dragon God Celestial Palace's 9x9 grand array. The density of the heaven and earth yuan qi here is roughly 7 times that of the outside world. 9x9 grand array's extreme effect was 9 times the density of the outside world's yuan qi. 1 day of cultivation was equivalent to 9 days of bitter cultivation in the outside world. On the other hand, Yi family's 9x9 grand array allowed 1 day of cultivation to be equivalent to 7 days of bitter cultivation. The difference wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. After all, the lifespan of martial artists was extremely long. 1 or 2 days might not make a difference, but 10 or 20 years would be a huge difference. One 9x9 grand array is not enough. I have to arrange other arrays. The mountain guarding great array had both offense and defense. If one were to blindly defend, they would eventually fall into a disadvantage. Moreover, the 9x9 grand array's main function was to seal the heaven and earth yuan qi and absorb it from the outside world. In terms of defense, it was only an additional effect. Fortunately, Yi Chen knew quite a few arrays. With the array manuals left by Fire Emperor and some sword array arrangements in Battle King's memories, he didn't have to worry about not having enough arrays to use. Water and Earth interlocking great array. This was one of the defensive arrays in the Fire Emperor's array manuals, and its grade was supreme grade. Once the array was completed, it would condense numerous illusory mountains and rivers to protect the Yi family when attacked from the outside world. When the enemy fell into the great array, their speed would be greatly reduced. It would be like entering a world of flood and collapsing mountains. Being able to exert 70 to 80% of one's strength would already be considered pretty good. The Water and Earth interlocking great array completely covered the 27 mountains, but its defensive range was far beyond that. When attacked, it would expand by 10 times, and the enemy would be sucked into it. The Water and Earth interlocking great array was a defensive array. Next, Yi Chen arranged another offensive array. This array also came from Fire Emperor, and it was called the Sky-Burning Fire Dragon Array. It was also a supreme grade. The attacking range of the Sky-Burning Fire Dragon Array was far beyond the defensive range of the Water and Earth interlocking Great Array. Once it was activated, it would condense fire dragons that could burn the sky. They would jump out of the Great Array and attack the enemy. Even if the enemy was 1,000 miles away, they would not be able to escape the pursuit of the fire dragons. In addition, the Sky-Burning Fire Dragon Array was controllable. The people inside the array could control the fire dragons and attack at will. Under normal circumstances, one person could control one fire dragon. Unless it was a genius like Yi Chen who could multitask, or even multitask, he could control 2 or 3 fire dragons to attack the enemy at the same time. After setting up the Water and Earth interlocking Great Array and the Sky-Burning Fire Dragon Array, Yi Chen focused on the last offensive Great Array. This offensive Great Array came from the Battle Emperor's memory. It was called the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array. Back in the days, the Immortal Sword Martial School in the Blood Heavenland also had the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array. Unfortunately, the Battle Emperor had fallen and the Immortal Sword Sect had been taken over by the Demonic Martial School. Otherwise, with just the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array, the surrounding rank 6 martial schools would not dare to bully the Zhongtian Martial School. Yi Chen did not set up the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array outside. Instead, he set it up at the edge of the 9 mountains, which was very close to the 9-9 Return to Origin Great Array. This way, with the natural power of the 9-9 Return to Origin Great Array, the power of the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array would definitely be maximized. Kai. The power of the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array was extremely powerful. Although it was still an extreme rank mid-rank array, it was one of the most horrifying attacking arrays. During the process of setting up the array, the natural spirit Qi would constantly compress and condense into beams of white sword Qi, shooting out in all directions. If it were not for the fact that Yi Chen had been paying close attention, the surrounding 18 mountains would have been sliced into pieces by these white sword Qi. Of course, this was because the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array hadn't been completely set up yet. After being set up, it wouldn't be activated easily. It would only be activated when being attacked. Moreover, it would lock onto the life aura of the attacker, and wouldn't stop until the attacker was dead. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't have arranged it here. After spending 10 days, the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array was also completed. Currently, with the 9-9 Return to Origin Great Array and the Immortal Sword Qi Great Array on the inside, and the Fire Dragon Sky Burning Great Array and the Water and Earth Chain Great Array on the outside, Yi family had a total of 4 Great Arrays protecting it. Although it might not be as safe as Dragon God Celestial Palace, it would at least be able to hold out for a period of time. However, Yi Chen knew that no matter how powerful the great arrays were, they were only external objects. Without the protection of life and death kings, no matter how many great arrays there were, they would still be broken. Dragon God Celestial Palace's arrays were extremely powerful, but without Senior Dragon King, they were still invaded by the 4 great powers. If one thought that they would be safe with the protection of the great arrays, then they would be gravely mistaken. Let's set up another mountain gate and arrange a flight restriction array. The mountain gate was the entrance of a power, so it could not be careless. Using white jade, Yi Chen created a huge mountain gate. The mountain gate was 12 zhong tall and 15 zhong wide, looking like a memorial arch. On the mountain gate, Yi Chen used the Immortal sword intent to carve 2 large characters, Yi family. He then arranged some firm restrictions on the mountain gate to prevent it from being damaged or easily destroyed. At the same time, with the mountain gate as the center, Yi Chen arranged a flight restriction array within 1,000 meters. Anyone under life and death realm would not be able to fly inside the array. They could only walk on the ground. Even life and death kings would face some restrictions and be unable to fly high enough to fly over the mountain gate. Chapter 931. After everything was done, a satisfied smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. All of a sudden, he thought of something. The plant ring on his left hand shone with a dim light, and a huge spirit tree appeared out of thin air. It was indeed the top-rank spirit tree, the fire pear tree. It was more than 3,000 years old, and it was hundreds of meters tall. Its crown covered a radius of 1 mile, which was huge in the eyes of normal people. It could almost cover a small village. This fire pear tree would not be able to absorb any nutrients from the plant ring. It would only be able to keep the spirit chi from declining. Why don't I plant it on the Spirit Cloud Mountain? The Spirit Cloud Mountain was the most central mountain. Since it was the core of the 9-9 original Great Spell, the natural spirit chi there was extremely rich, condensing into countless spirit clouds floating around the mountain. Therefore, Yi Chen had named it the Spirit Cloud Mountain. Originally, Yi Chen was planning to make the Spirit Cloud Mountain the main mountain of the Yi family and let all the direct members of the family live there. This way, their training speed would be extremely fast. Unless they ran into a bottleneck, they would be able to increase their cultivation very quickly. But, training too fast was not a good thing either, since the foundation would not be solid enough. The fire pear tree was a top-rank spirit tree, which was extremely useful for warriors below the life and death realm. Dozens of fire pears would be equivalent to a Sea of Souls realm spirit crystal stone, which would be extremely useful for training the spirit body. If they could take root on the Spirit Cloud Mountain, the fire pear tree would definitely be able to increase its power. Moreover, Yi Chen had his own plan. He wanted to turn the Spirit Cloud Mountain into the holy land of the Yi family, since the natural spirit chi there was the densest. Those who contributed to the Yi family would be able to train there for a few days based on their contributions. Those who contributed a lot would even be rewarded with a fire pear tree, which could be used to increase the spirit body's power. The mountain had been moved here, and the spell had been set up. Next, it was time to officially build the Yi family. This was something that Yi Chen did not need to worry about. Yi Tianhao, Shen Yuqing, and the higher-ups of the Yi clan were dumbfounded when they saw the 27 mountains arranged in an orderly manner. It was not that South Rudra region did not have good mountains, but compared to the mountains in the northern regions, they were clearly lacking. Moreover, the mountains that Yi Chen had moved from the northern regions had all been carefully selected. Some were tall and precipitous, some had majestic aura, some had strange rocks, and some had dense waterfalls. 27 mountains, each with their own unique characteristics. Moreover, they carried the unique wild aura of the northern regions, displaying their original style. Standing in the mountains, one would unconsciously open their mind and feel a lofty aspiration rising into the sky. Chenna, is there anything special about this mountain gate? Yi Tianhao couldn't help but ask when he sensed that the mountain gate contained an ancient and immortal aura. Yi Chen said, the materials used to build the mountain gate are not that precious. However, I have added a couple of seals on it, making it very sturdy and hard to destroy. Besides that, The 2 words Yi clan contain my immortal sword intent, which can strengthen the mountain gate and protect it from wind and rain, as well as the corrosion of time. Father, mother, everyone can fly in and give it a try. Yi Chen wanted to see the effect of the forbidden space formation. After all, it was his first time setting up an official formation. Yi Tianhao, Shen Yuqing, and the rest did not doubt him at all. Hearing Yi Chen's words, there must be something special about the mountain gate. They all performed their movement arts and flew over. Just as everyone flew within 1,000 meters of the mountain gate, they all fell down uncontrollably. They wanted to fly again, but they couldn't do it no matter what. Forbidden space formation. Shen Yuqing's eyes brightened. Yi Chen smiled and said, anyone who wants to enter the Yi clan has to pass through here. Whether they want to or not, they can only get down and walk, which saves them a lot of trouble. In order to let the Yi clan's higher-ups know what kind of formations the Yi clan had, Yi Chen first activated the water and earth interlocking formation. As soon as the water and earth interlocking formation was activated, the surrounding scenery immediately changed drastically. Shadows of mountains were floating in the air, and in between the shadows of the mountains, there were dark green shadows of the Milky Way. Looking from afar, these shadows of mountains looked like huge armor plates, and the Milky Way's shadows were the threads that connected the armor plates together. The outer area of the Yi clan and the sky above the Yi clan seemed to be wearing a semicircular armor, which protected the Yi clan well. This is the top-grade medium defensive formation, water and fire interlocking formation. This is the top-grade medium offensive formation, sky-burning fire dragon great formation. One after another, thousands of meters-long fire dragons shot out, burning the heavens. Even from far away, Yi Tianhao, Shen Yuqing, and the rest could feel the scorching heat. It wasn't hard to imagine that no one under Life and Death Realm would be able to resist the fire dragons. Even ordinary Life and Death Kings wouldn't dare to be hit by them. Good. With the protection of these 2 great formations, it won't be a dream for Yi clan to continue for thousands of years. Yi Tianhao was in high spirits. In Yi Chen's generation, Yi clan had basically enjoyed all the glory it could. However, compared to other superclans, Yi clan's only shortcoming was its lack of foundation. It only had a few hundred years of history, which was far from comparable to those ancient clans that had existed for thousands of years. Father, there's an even more powerful immortal sword Qi great formation inside. It can easily kill low-step kings, and even mid-step kings would most likely fall if they charged in alone. The immortal sword Qi great formation was Yi clan's last line of defense. Yi Chen didn't think that he could block high-step kings with just a few formations. For Yi Chen, these formations were mainly used to stall for time. The 2 great formations outside needed some time to be broken, and the Immortal Sword Qi Great Formation and 9-9 Return to Origin Great Formation also needed some time to be broken. Adding the 2 formations together would buy a lot of time. If Yi Chen were far away, he would have plenty of time to rush back. Witnessing the might of the Immortal Sword Qi Great Formation, Yi clan's members looked forward to Yi clan's future even more. They believed that as long as Yi Chen continued to improve, Yi clan would certainly become more and more powerful. One day, they might even become an overlord-level power that could shake the entire true spirit world with a stomp of their feet. Yi clan's ancestors probably never imagined that our Yi clan would become a 5th-grade family, and even have a defensive great formation protecting our descendants. Yi Tianhao was somewhat absent-minded. Yi clan's grand construction project began, and Yi Chen also began to cultivate bitterly. The vibrational sword art's 2nd style, Heaven-Inflicted Sword, had long since been completed. However, the heaven-shattering sword art's 2nd style, Orbital Slaughter, was still in its embryonic form. If he could comprehend it successfully, with its characteristics, even the protective Jin Yuan of titled monarchs would not be able to withstand a single blow. Of course, this didn't mean that studying Orbital Slaughter would allow one to contend against titled monarchs, it could only threaten them. After all, the other party wasn't a block of wood that could be easily killed. Orbital Slaughter had a very high requirement for the space profound. Therefore, in the past few days, Yi Chen had been studying Emperor 4 Extreme Space Profound while deducing Orbital Slaughter. As a 5th-grade family, Yi clan couldn't just build a few buildings like before. According to Yi Tianhao's plan, he planned to build buildings on all 27 peaks. Along the flat areas of the peaks, he would also construct steps. This was a huge project. It should be known that the smallest of these 27 peaks was several thousand meters tall, occupying a dozen li. The largest was Spirit Cloud Peak, more than 9,000 meters tall, occupying 100 li. The entire Yi clan's area exceeded 500 li. The project was huge, and the number of craftsmen was indispensable. In order to complete the Yi clan's construction as soon as possible, Yi Tianhao recruited 100,000 craftsmen in one go. Yi clan's disciples couldn't stay idle either, and each of them had to lead their craftsmen to work. Just as Yi clan's construction was going on, Blood Sky Continent's Eternal Sky sect encountered a crisis. 4 life and death kings arrived at Eternal Sky sect. Li Zhongfeng, I know that the senior who had been protecting Eternal Sky sect for 500 years is no longer here. Right now, besides Yi Chen, you have no other ace up your sleeve. The one who spoke was a minotaur with dark red skin. His body was huge, and even his calves were a couple of stories tall. Standing there, he looked like a mountain giant. He was none other than the leader of one of the top 10 beast martial schools, the Iron Hoof Beast School, the Iron Hoof Beast King. No matter how powerful Yi Chen is, he is only one person, and there are 4 of us here. The elder with white hair next to the Iron Hoof Beast King said. Li Zhongfeng sensed that something was not right. In fact, he did not even know if the king warrior who had been protecting Eternal Sky sect was still here or not. In the past 500 years, besides the one time 300 years ago, he had never shown up again. Trying to take a deep breath, Li Zhongfeng tried his best to calm himself down and said, "Why have you 4 come to my Eternal Sky sect?" Savage Stone. The elder with white hair said. Savage Stone? Li Zhongfeng frowned. I have never heard of it. Perhaps you might have heard of it by another name. Lover's Stone. Impossible. Li Zhongfeng yelled. The Lover's Stone was given by our ancestors as a token of love to the first-generation leader of the Li family. How could it be the Savage Stone? Your Li family has passed down the Lover's Stone from generation to generation. Do you really think that it is just a token of love? No one would believe it if you tell others. The elder knew about the Lover's Stone very well. Regardless of whether it is the Savage Stone or not, hand it over now. Otherwise, I will wipe out the entire Zhongtian martial school. The one who threatened was a middle-aged man with a small head and a pair of beast-like yellow pupils. Li Zhongfeng took a step back. Until now, he had also started to suspect that the Lover's Stone was not that simple. But asking him to hand it over just like that was obviously against the first-generation leader's will. Leader, leave this to me. Right then, Yi Chen, who had been in closed-up training, walked out. This was the spirit consciousness that he had left behind. Seeing Yi Chen come out, the Iron Hoof Beast King's expression changed as he yelled, Yi Chen, this has nothing to do with you. As long as he hands over the Lover's Stone, we will leave immediately. Otherwise, no one will be able to save the Zhongtian martial school. Oh, are you threatening me? Or do you think that I cannot destroy the Iron Hoof Beast martial school? Yi Chen held the evil shattering sword in his hand as he squinted his eyes. The elder with white hair laughed. A spirit consciousness body dares to be so arrogant. There are 4 of us here, and any one of us is more powerful than your spirit consciousness body. Right now, we are going to destroy the Zhongtian martial school, and you can only watch. The elder with white hair had the highest power. He was obviously a top king warrior. As a top king warrior, not to mention the fact that Yi Chen was just a spirit consciousness body, even if his real body came, he would not be afraid. This was the pride of a top king warrior. Chapter 932. You guys can try. Naturally, Yi Chen was quite afraid of the white-haired elder. Among the 4 of them, he was the most powerful one. He was about mid-rank 4-star warrior, and he himself was not a nobody either. He was the great master of the Terminator Demon Martial School in the Blood Skyland, the Demon King. Apart from the white-haired elder, the other 3 were not weak. The Iron Hoof Demonic King was at the peak of 3 stars, The middle-aged man with a small head was called the Silver Leopard King, who was also at the peak of 3 stars, and the woman with thin lips who had been silent all this time was the Mantis Queen, the leader of the Blood Mantis sect, one of the top 10 demonic sects of the Blood Sky continent. Her battle power was at the peak of 3 stars. The Silver Leopard King walked out and said, "If your real body was here, I might be a bit wary, but you're only a consciousness avatar. Do you think you can overturn the world? I can't overturn the world, but I can beat you." The consciousness avatar had 1/3 of Yi Chen's power. Although it wasn't 4 stars, it was still unbeatable within 3 stars. "Since you're so confident, I, the Silver Leopard King, will exchange a few moves." The Silver Leopard King didn't want to completely anger Yi Chen. Yi Chen's consciousness avatar wasn't scary, but his real body was too frightening. He was obviously a top king. Even the Demon King might not be able to suppress him. Roar. The Silver Leopard King was a demi-beast king with the Silver Leopard bloodline. With a roar, a silver leopard appeared behind him. The leopard also roared and merged into the Silver Leopard King's body. In the next second, the Silver Leopard King turned into a half-human, half-beast leopard man. When beasts couldn't completely transform, they would also appear as half-human, half-beast beastmen. However, beastmen's battle power wasn't high. After all, they couldn't even transform, so how strong could they be? Of course, there were some powerful beast kings that liked to appear as beastmen. For example, the Iron Hoof Demon King was a minotaur. This was a matter of aesthetics. However, the beastman form of a demonic beast was completely different from a demonic beast. For a demonic beast, the beastman form was their strongest combat power. It contained the wild power of a demonic beast, as well as the advantages of a human. It was equivalent to combining the advantages of both sides, perfectly fusing them together. Kai. The Silver Leopard King, in its leopardman form, was unimaginably fast. With a flash of silver light, it brushed past Yi Chen. Almost at the same time, countless sparks flew in front of Yi Chen. The sound of metal exploding resounded through the sky, and the space was torn into pieces. He blocked it. Several li behind Yi Chen, the Silver Leopard King turned his head, his eyes filled with astonishment. He did not sense when Yi Chen pulled out his sword or when he used his sword to block his claw attack. He had thought that even if he could not hurt Yi Chen with his first attack, he would at least make Yi Chen look miserable and reveal more flaws. The weakness of the consciousness avatar could not be concealed, and that was that it was easy to collapse. He blocked it. That scene just now had happened too quickly. The Iron Hoof Beast King and the Mantis Queen did not even have time to react. The Silver Leopard King's attack speed was within their expectations, but Yi Chen's blocking speed was completely unexpected. Moreover, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. It was as if the Silver Leopard King's quick attack was very ordinary to him, not worthy of any fluctuation in his mood. A bit tricky. The Demon Centipede King could see some signs and could not help but frown. Sky-ripping cloud-expelling claw. The Silver Leopard King used his killing move. This move was a bit strange. It was not a direct attack, but rather a spiraling explosion of Jin Yuan containing demonic qi. The spiraling airflow was incomparably majestic. Even if it was Yi Chen, without using space-profound movement skills, he would find it hard to dodge. However, he could see that this spiraling airflow did not have much killing power, and could not break through his protective Jin Yuan at all. It seemed to have some other use. Boom! The airflow exploded, and Yi Chen's protective Jin Yuan warped, his figure faintly swaying. The dazzling silver claw light rapidly pierced over, as if there was no resistance at all. It seemed to be wandering between resistance and non-resistance, making this claw impossible to dodge. So that's how it is. A thought flashed through his mind as he realized how powerful this attack of the Silver Leopard King was. In the beginning, that spiral chi flow was not used to attack, but to collide with his protective Jin Yuan. Once Jin Yuan and Jin Yuan collided, a gap would appear, and the Silver Leopard King's next claw attack would attack through this gap, which would not be hindered by the two kinds of Jin Yuan. If Yi Chen were a life and death king with strength similar to the Silver Leopard King, he might really be heavily injured by this move without knowing the opponent's strength. Unfortunately, the Silver Leopard King's opponent was Yi Chen, even if it was only a consciousness avatar of Yi Chen. Buzz. Yi Chen's Zhenyuan vibrated as he slashed out. Peng. The instant the silver claw light was about to hit Yi Chen, it suddenly shattered. The extremely powerful vibration not only dissipated the chaotic airflow, but also turned the shattered silver claw light into specks of silver light, dissipating into nothingness. The so-called flaw was something Yi Chen could easily eliminate. Unless the Silver Leopard King's killing move was 2 or 3 times faster, it could threaten him. As the silver claw light shattered, Yi Chen's figure suddenly moved. The evil shattering sword streaked across the sky, leaving behind a golden scar as it heavily slashed at the Silver Leopard King. Heaven-cutting sword. Yi Chen's movement and sword speed were too fast. Even the Silver Leopard King, who had always prided himself on his speed, felt that he couldn't evade this sword. If he tried, he would just die. I don't believe this sword of yours is that powerful. The Silver Leopard King coldly snorted and raised his right claw. Clang. Sparks flew everywhere as the Silver Leopard King's pupils suddenly enlarged. His Zhenyuan protective layer shattered with a puff. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, the Silver Leopard King's entire body was sent flying. While flying, his body couldn't help but shake rapidly, causing it to turn illusory. Vibration power, the same vibration power as the demonic blade arts. The image of the demonic blade king flashed in the Silver Leopard King's mind. He had exchanged blows with the demonic blade king before. The latter's demonic blade arts could be said to be invincible in close combat. He had suffered losses more than once or twice, and every time he met the latter, he would feel extremely nervous. He originally thought that the demonic blade arts were unique, but unexpectedly, Yi Chen was also proficient in vibration power. Moreover, it was not inferior to the demonic blade king's demonic blade arts. The Silver Leopard King's body fiercely smashed into a mountain near the Eternal Sky Sect. The mountain trembled slightly, and the next moment, the huge mountain was shattered into millions of pieces. This was the huge destructive power transmitted from the vibration power inside the mountain. Fortunately, the collision had not happened. Otherwise, the Silver Leopard King's injuries would have been several times worse. With one sword, the Silver Leopard King lost most of his battle strength, and his head became dizzy. What a good vibration sword! The demonic blade king couldn't help but say. Let me try. The Mantis Queen licked her thin scarlet lips, her eyes filled with a strong desire to fight. This kid is troublesome. Let me do it. The Demon Centipede King shook his head. He knew the Mantis Queen's strength. She was definitely a 3-star tyrant. No one under 4-star could beat her. However, the strength that Yi Chen had displayed was not much weaker than the Mantis Queen. Moreover, he could already see that Yi Chen had not used his full strength yet. The hope of the Mantis Queen beating him was very slim. Of course, he did not think that Yi Chen could easily beat the Mantis Queen. You think I am not his opponent? The Mantis Queen was a bit dissatisfied. The Demon Centipede King explained, we are not here to spar. If I am not wrong, his real body is already rushing towards the Blood Sky continent. All right then, the Mantis Queen's eyes flashed, and she gave up on the idea of fighting Yi Chen. Let's just watch from the side. The Demon Centipede King's Sky Demonic Hand, you should know the power. The Iron Hoof Beast King said to the Mantis Queen. Sky Demonic Hand. The Mantis Queen could not help but shiver. It was as if this killer move had infinite power. Just thinking about it made her feel afraid. Facing the Demon Centipede King, Yi Chen's expression became solemn. The Demon Centipede King was a genuine top-notch king. According to the outside world's guesses, his strength was at 4-star mid-level. As for what level, although Yi Chen was not very clear, it should not be too far off. With the strength of this consciousness avatar, he was really not a match. Delay for a while longer. Wait for my real body to come. Yi Chen decided to fight for a while longer, not giving the opponent a chance to end the battle quickly. Yi Chen, I have no intention of being enemies with you. I hope that today's fight will not make us mortal enemies. Unexpectedly, the Demon Centipede King's attitude was very humble. He knew better than anyone that Yi Chen's consciousness avatar had the strength of a 3-star peak or 3-star tyrant. His real body was at least 4-star mid-level or above. This made him somewhat miscalculate, and he cursed inwardly. But the arrow had already been narked, and it had to be fired. He had to get the savage stone no matter what. In Elysium, the level of one's strength was too important. If Yi Chen had been a normal top-notch king, the demon centipede king would not have been willing to offend Yi Chen unscrupulously, but he would not have lowered himself either. But now, his attitude had changed. In his heart, Yi Chen's position had undoubtedly risen to the level of a big shot. Becoming enemies with a big shot was not a wise move. I also do not want to become mortal enemies with you, so I hope you will stop while you're ahead. Just like the demon centipede king, Yi Chen was also not willing to become enemies with the demon centipede king. The demon centipede king was not scary, but the Terminator demon sect behind him was indeed a super large sect. Especially the sect leader of the Terminator demon sect, he was a bona fide titled king. People called him the Terminator demon emperor. His Terminator demon arts and king-slaying hand were extremely frightening. Well said. Take this. The demon centipede king took a deep breath, and his aura rapidly expanded. Opening his palm, he struck out at Yi Chen. Wang. The evil vanquishing sword vibrated to the point of distortion, and Yi Chen met it with his sword. Zizizi. A scene that shocked Yi Chen occurred. The vibrating power, which was usually unstoppable, instantly melted the moment it encountered the demon centipede king's palm energy, like snow in winter meeting the blazing sun. Demonic hand of death. Yi Chen's expression became more and more serious. He had long heard that the demon centipede king's demonic hand of death could melt all things. Seeing it today, it was indeed true. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.